Hi, I'm Liz Toombs, your host for Sorority Chat, the podcast about all things Greek housing, decorating, and beyond. Thank you so much for being here and listening. I hope that you enjoy what you're hearing on each episode from me and the guests on the show. And if you are, please share with a friend and leave us a review. Happy listening. Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. And I'm extremely excited to talk about the topic of recruitment with you.
Yes, it's my favorite season.
I was going to say, and you're very well versed in it. So I have your bio here, and you are a Pi Beta Phi from their Illinois ADA chapter, which is at Milliken University, right?
Yep.
Yes. And so you've served in a variety of leadership positions, including VP of Finance and Housing, and also VP of Recruitment. So you are very knowledgeable about today's topic. And then also, I mean, you can tell that you really enjoy Greek life because you've served as an intern for Greek life on Milliken's campus. And then this coming year, you have an opportunity to be a leadership development consultant. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm super excited for that. So I'm one of the residential leadership development consultants. So I'm going to be at the Wisconsin Epsilon chapter at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. So This is going to be their second year on campus. We're going to really work to establish all of traditions, establish their place on campus. And they're actually the first national chapter and the first Pan-Hellenic chapter on their campus. So we're kind of like the pilot program for bringing all of national Greek life to them.
Well, that's a cool opportunity for you to be a part of that then and kind of lay that groundwork.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So you said that recruitment is your favorite time of year. What is it specifically for you that makes recruitment so exciting?
I think it's always exciting, getting new members and getting to share what we love about our chapter. But I think it's also a really awesome time to energize the chapter and why we all joined and to really be thinking about that. We always talk about during Spirit Week, you should always have your why Pi Phi story. I think it just makes us appreciate a lot more our chapter and all the great memories that we've made together.
Yeah, I would agree. It is the time to reflect and reminisce and just be thankful for where you are and to be reminded of that why that you joined.
Yes.
A few episodes back, I had an etiquette lady on, and she was talking about a rule of thumb would be, as an active going through, to be able to have that story prepared so that if a P&M says to you, well, why did you join this chapter? You know exactly what you want to say and what you're trying to convey to them. And then also her suggestion was, as a P&M, that is a great question to have in your back pocket for conversation.
Yes, it's always so helpful because we always tell when we're preparing for recruitment, we always tell our active members we're both super nervous about it. So we need to prepare on both sides. So with everybody practicing, it'll just flow a lot easier.
Yeah,
and for
totally.
PMs to have questions prepared, it just helps the conversation flow so much more.
Yeah, and then you don't have to think so much on your feet because if you are nervous, sometimes all of that leaves you. But if you've prepared, then you have some things to stick with.
Yes. And that always leads into a conversation too with you can just kind of chill out and get to know your actives that you're talking to.
Yes, exactly. But I do think that women coming through on the P&M side assume that no one is nervous on the active side. They're they're just, this is old hat for them. But it's nerve-wracking for different reasons.
Seeing it going through recruitment, I was oh my gosh, they're all so cool and chill and
yes,
they're like this all the time. And then seeing it from the other side, it's we're all running around practicing the songs, making sure all the food's handed out. So everyone's nervous on both sides, but it's all a great outcome.
Yes. Well, so let's start by talking a little bit about what exactly was the recruitment setup for you guys at Milliken? Did you recruit out of the house? Was it over a week's time? Was it on weekends? Let's just kind of talk about the structure in which that you went through recruitment.
Yeah, so we have a deferred recruitment. So we recruit in the spring, which I really like because you can kind of get to know the chapters a little bit first. So a lot of P&Ms will come to our philanthropy events. And then we have at the end of the first semester, we have an event called Progressive Dinner. So that's kind of P&M's first chance to see the houses. So it's kind of a dinner party that we just have 3 Pan-Hellenic chapters on our campus. So you do a course at each house. And then in the next semester, it's usually about a month after we're back into school in the second semester. We have a week of recruitment. So usually Monday's like an orientation. And then Tuesday and Wednesday is like parties at the house. Fridays are preference night, which is like your final night of looking at the houses, and then Saturday's bid day.
Okay.
So it's kind of an expedited process that it's 1 week. But it's a really fun week. And I like that, like, it gives us time to, like, you can look at the houses and then take a step back and kind of like think about, because we always talk about how PNMs, it's like not only a conversation of like, what do you personally want, but like you have to talk to your family about it. Like, is this going to work with your financial situation? Are your parents expecting you to live in a Greek house, or were they expecting you to live in a dorm all 4 years? So having that like glimpse of it the first semester and answering some of those questions lets people go home and like talk to their families about it and really consider like
a good point. Yeah, I came from the University of Kentucky. We had recruitment when I went through. You moved in a week earlier than everyone else, or I guess 2 weeks technically. You went through a week of recruitment, and then everybody else moved on to campus. So it was like campus was a ghost town other than everyone going through recruitment. And it was, a week, it goes by really quickly, just like you said, like it feels a little rushed, but it's nice what you're talking about to have deferred recruitment, because you do have that whole semester to really think through things and understand, and then you can be very focused when you do go through the actual recruitment. I just wasn't aware of that when it was my time to go through, and I've only gotten familiar in my professional life working with different chapters now, and I hear a lot of benefits, much like what you're saying.
Yeah, we always go back and forth because we are debating this past year as a campus, like, should we go back to doing like fall recruitment? Because I think they've changed about like 10 years ago, moving it to the spring. But it's kind of nice that like, people when you're going into the houses, that like there's always like a friendly face there of like, even if you're not like best friends with someone from there, like, you're going into the house and you see a girl in the lineup and you're like, oh my gosh, like she was my TA in my class last semester. So like, it's a little bit more comfortable to like come into the places.
Yeah, that does make sense, because going through it the way that I did it, you come onto campus, and other than if you know some women going through recruitment with you, you usually don't know somebody. You're going through these houses kind of blind on the off chance maybe you knew someone from home or somebody's sibling is in a chapter, but it is a little bit more of a blind walkthrough situation that you're doing.
Yeah.
What about this? So tell me, do you all have, I'm trying to think of the correct term, it's leaving me now. Somebody like Gamma Chi's or Gamma Rhos typically are what they're called.
Yes, we have Rho Gammas.
Okay, Rho Gamma, thank you. I just don't know why I got that all twisted. But so how does that work? Because typically if somebody is in that position, and for those that are listening that may be going through recruitment and they don't understand what this means yet, it's kind of a group leader for potential new members. And so they are your guide for the week and your support system to help answer your questions. And so my question for you, Katie, is if somebody is in that role, typically they're not allowed to disclose their affiliation because they're supposed to be very objective and to help these PNMs. But that seems hard if you've got deferred recruitment because everyone has been on campus together. So talk about that.
It's something we always struggle with a little bit. And we're a small campus. Like we have 3 Panhellenic chapters. Like it's a smaller school. So we still have people disaffiliate. And so we do like the Rho Gamma applications like right before progressive dinner. And so that's like the last event that they're affiliated at. And then after that, it's like the official start of recruitment season. And so it's like you have to take your like letters out of your bio and like archive photos. And we go around the houses and like put Post-it notes over people's faces. But we always kind of laugh at it. And we've been like debating if we should get rid of it because it's like, you don't know, but like you do know like what chapters people are in because you saw them walking around for a semester. And we also like the houses are all near each other. So you kind of see people walking into their houses, like coming home from class. So I feel like most people like know where people are from. But I think it's mostly like you don't like directly talk about your chapter. But it's always funny. We had it was my sophomore year, I think, because we're like the Pi Phi angels. So we cut out these like little angel wings and we like put it over like people's composite photos. And there's this one with just one. And this one girl went, oh my gosh, did she die? We're like, no, like she's like on campus right now. She's like one of the road gammas. And then she was like, oh, I thought that was kind of weird that you guys had so many of these up around the house. We're like, no, they're running recruitment. But it was, so we always joke about that as we're putting up our little angel wings around the house.
That is, I mean, it's very funny that that's what she thought. I'm glad that that's not the situation,
Yes.
but that would have to feel very foreign to somebody who's walking through and isn't making that connection yet between the angel wings and what's happening.
So we're always kind of telling people, we're like, okay, we're not just messy. Like there aren't just Post-its stuck all over the place. Like it's a purposeful thing.
Yeah, it's like you're mad at somebody, so you've covered their face. You don't want to look at them anymore. Instead of the old school, like coloring them out in the yearbook. Like,
they're like, did they leave the chapter? We're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you get a lot of good stories and interesting conversations from that for sure.
Oh yeah.
That's really funny. So if that were to go away, how would there be support offered for potential new members coming through, or has that been discussed at all?
I think we would like still have row gammas, but them just not necessarily like disaffiliate. Like we'd probably have them like not wear letters at events, and like still keep that stuff up and like talk from a like unbiased position.
Yeah.
But I think less of the, it's like very intense. So, like you can get a recruitment infraction if like someone like sees one of your row gammas wearing letters and stuff like that.
Yes, I remember that as well. I also remember as being a potential new member trying to guess like crazy. You know, you're always trying to figure out who your group leader, like who they're affiliated with and what's going on. And I guess in your case, you could have some sneaky folks that the whole semester before, if they're playing detective and trying to pay attention to everyone, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's a really chill thing though. I feel like and by the end of it, like the row gamma reveal is always like one of my favorite parts of recruitment, when everyone can like run back home to their sisters.
Yeah, that is fun. Well, so let's talk a little bit about what it was like for you when you went through recruitment as a PNM. Like what did that look like and feel like? And what would your tips be for somebody who's about to go through that side of the process?
Yeah, so I was so excited for it. Going into college, like I knew I wanted to be a member of Greek life. And I was kind of surprised that was kind of an interesting like point to be at my school. A lot of people going through recruitment were like, I never thought I'd go Greek, but like I just kind of signed up for it because it was fun.
Yeah.
But it was such a fun week. We do ours in like the evening. So like you go to class all day and everyone's always like talking in their classes. They're like, oh my gosh, like, what are you wearing tonight? Like, are you excited? We'll see you there. So we all gather in our union, like right before, and then we all walk over to the house in our groups. I really thought I was going to be a member of another chapter. I had some like preconceived notions and I was like, you know, I'm joining there, like I'm gonna go there. And then first night I was like having conversations and like they were like fine at other houses, but like they really just stuck out to me at Pi Phi. And then it was interesting because like talking to other people who like ended up joining other chapters, like they had that same experience, but for like the other houses, that everyone was just kind of like finding out where they fit. But so I like went through the first 2 nights. We had our like introduction night where we just kind of learned, like we got house tours, we learned like general things about chapters and just got to meet a couple members. And then we had philanthropy night where we learned about each chapter's philanthropy and did some like activities with them and like watched some videos. And I was kind of in between two, like going into preference night, and I wasn't sure. And I'll always remember I called my mom before and I was like, I don't know, like, how do I decide? And I was like, I don't know, I wasn't in Greek life. But she told me, she was like, okay, so you know that you like both of these houses and like, you know that you like the sisters in them. So like, maybe look at the other people that are like interested in joining the chapter, like who's going to be in your new member class. Cause like we did know each other because it was deferred. And then we did at our chapter, we did a flower ceremony. So we each got like a flower on preference night that like, was like based on like our personality. And me and my best friend got the same flower. And I was like, that was the moment that like I had the like aha moment. And I feel like a lot of people do get that moment, but also like a lot of people don't. And like that's okay. I feel like everyone has their own like unique experience, like going through recruitment. But everyone has like a story about it, like, and something that like funny that happened or like interesting. But I think I would tell people just like not to take it too seriously. Like definitely like put a lot of thought into it because like, you know, you're picking where you're gonna live in a lot of cases. You're picking like who your friends are gonna be. But also like you want to pick like where it feels like home. So like being your most authentic self. And I know like they always talk about it at the beginning of like recruitment for everyone. They're like, just be yourself and it'll be fine. But it's like so true. Like just find where you're going to be like the most comfortable. Like I always like look around at the furniture and you're like, think about like, what couch could I take a nap on? Like, where can I just like come home after like an awful day and like kick my feet up and like just chill?
Yeah. Now you're speaking my language when you bring furniture into the mix of things. So thanks
Yes.
for that. But no, I mean, you bring up a good point about you want to take it seriously in terms of you want to be prepared and you want to pay attention and make the best choice, but you don't want to take it so seriously that it's stressing you out or it's, causing undue worry. You just want to kind of flow through and find your group that you fit with. So I think that was a really good point to think about. You were talking about the other members of your class and your friends and just see how all of that is working together.
Yeah.
So then from the active side, how did that look different for you in terms of preparation? And if somebody is an active member right now listening, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, so I think preparation is key. So that's why we all have like spirit weeks, or like work weeks, so we can like really get ready. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is like having questions prepared, and we kind of have like a theme of each night. If it's rather like sisterhood night or like philanthropy night, and you can kind of like have your questions like themed to that. But we also talked about like how you can make your questions more like equitable to like include everyone. So we saw like a lot of like example ones were like, oh, like where'd you go on a vacation this summer? I feel like that's like a really easy thing to ask. But then we were thinking about this year, like especially with like the pandemic and stuff, like not a lot of people could go on vacation this year, or like not everyone can afford it always. So like what's your like dream place to travel to? Or like if you had $1 million, like what would you do with it? Or especially for philanthropy night, you're like you can donate it anywhere. Where would you donate it to? So I think just having all that like preparation and like thinking about how you can make the P&Ms most comfortable, like going in on your side, like the more work you can do ahead of time on that, the more like fun you can have during recruitment and just kind of like chill. And like it's really like a house party. Like you're having everyone come over, you're showing them your home. So I kind of just like thinking of that, of rather it being like a formal meeting thing, even though there are those elements to it. Like you're really just welcoming people into your home, and seeing if they want to be there too.
Yes, that is very good advice, just to think of you as a host for an event. You're getting to walk through and chat with some different people. And so if you have a hostess mentality, you'll be in good shape as an active.
Yes. And I always like to tell, oh, you go.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I always like to tell the other members too, like when we're like working on stuff that like there are kind of like there can be like strict dress codes and stuff, and we always want to make sure like lines are straight and stuff. But like also like show off that like this is your home. Like it doesn't need to be like super uptight. Like show that like we're having fun and like don't get like crazy loud, but like talk to each other. Like you don't have to be like robots in this.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. You want to show that personality and be authentic on this side, just like you want to be authentic as the new member.
Yes.
So you talked about eyeing a sofa. And so then it got me wondering, some campuses, they will pull furniture and even some decoration from the walls out of the houses during recruitment. And it can be for a couple of different reasons. Sometimes it is to make the playing field more level, so that no one is paying attention to the furnishings and the interior of the house, and instead they're focused on the people. Or sometimes it's strictly a space issue. You've got to get all of these people into a space, whether it's seated or standing, and so you've got to get the furniture out. So I'm curious, on your campus, does the furniture and everything stay in place as it normally is, or how does that work?
So we move it around a little bit. So like in our main room, it's our date room that we have. It's usually our date room and our dining room. So all the furniture like stays in the room, but normally we push it against the walls.
Okay.
And then we throw some like pillows out on the floor for people to sit down on. And then in like our dining room, normally it's like a table then with like 6 chairs around it that we push the 2 tables together so people can kind of like sit in pairs in different parts of the table.
Okay.
And we have smaller parties normally too. Normally our parties around like 20 to 30 P&Ms. So we're lucky that we don't have to have a ton of people coming over. but one of our things is like spacing people out enough that it's not going to get too loud.
Yeah.
Because it always ends up turning into like, one person next to you is talking a little louder. So then you go a little louder and then people are just like screaming. We're like,
Yeah.
we all just need to tone it down so we could hear each other.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of just like pushing furniture up against the walls.
Okay, that makes sense. So just a little bit of adapting to what is normally in the space. That's something else that I have found fascinating. The more that I continue to work in these homes is how different from campus to campus recruitment situations are. Because again, all I knew was what I experienced at Kentucky. We went through the houses for the most part. All of the furniture remained in place. And so the way the room was set up was to maximize seating and to be able to have folks talking face to face to each other or side by side. When I would go to campuses or if I still go to campuses that do take furniture out, that's always fascinating to me. And so then I'm having to think through, okay, well, what kind of furniture can easily be moved in and out, or we're not going to put new furniture in before recruitment if all you're going to do is store it for a few weeks. And so some of those logistics are kind of different.
Yeah. I never thought about it before because like we have all the furniture that we move have sliders underneath them.
Okay.
So it's really easy that, a couple minutes before we could just be like, okay, actually this can't be right here. Like, let's just scooch it out to the side.
Yeah, but those sliders are a lifesaver because you guys don't need to be picking up or dragging that stuff across the room because you could hurt yourselves or the stuff could break. So that's really handy. So yeah. So when you were VP of Recruitment, let's talk a little bit for those who aren't familiar with that role. What did you do? What exactly were you charged with as the leader of recruitment?
Yeah, so I did kind of like recruitment overall. So in Pi Phi, we have the vice president of recruitment, and then we have a director of recruitment events. And then in some chapters, there's a director of, I think, recruitment information it's called, but since we're a smaller chapter, we kind of like combine them together.
Okay.
And so me and the recruitment team, and we also had a committee that we worked together with. We all worked together to plan the recruitment week heading up to it, the marketing heading up to it, and then bid day. So kind of it was progressive dinner and then that whole week and then how we marketed ourselves beforehand.
Okay.
So it's kind of planning out each day. And like there's like kind of I don't want to say like a template for how it should be done, but like looking at how it's done past years. So like planning like the food for each night, what people are wearing each night, making sure we know the songs that have to be sung. And then for like bid day, like what activities are we going to do? What's the theme going to be? What's the t-shirt going to look like? So a lot of those like little details of it.
Yeah. That's a lot of moving parts and logistics to be getting into.
Yes. And it's a lot of communications with people of like talking to like the chefs in our house, like talking to like our housekeeper to like make sure like certain rooms are done on certain days. And just making sure people know, especially clothing wise, like people need to know like way in advance, like what they need to wear, so they can make sure that they have that.
Yeah, they have to come to campus prepared and it has to be clean and ready to go. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
I think these types of roles give students such a great opportunity to sharpen their interpersonal skills because like what you're saying, they do have to go and talk to the chefs or the house director, or these adults in their life and involved in the organization. And they also have to lead chapter members and get their buy-in for participation. And so I think that experience has probably been really valuable for you, I would guess.
Yeah, I owe a lot of like what I learned in college through like my work with like different campus organizations and doing work on the exec boards. And I feel like it complements really too, like my major's in theater design and production. And so it goes really well together, that I want to do event planning eventually.
Yeah.
So it kind of all came together into that. But in theater, it's a lot of like you have a concept statement that's like your cohesive like view of a show. And then you kind of break out into those little things. So I feel like it goes like really well together into making an event.
Yeah, I agree. That does fit really well. If there was somebody that was considering wanting to be a VP of recruitment, what would your advice to them be? Or like what kind of skills would you say would serve them best in that position?
Yes. So definitely communication. You're going to be communicating with a lot of people, not only in your chapter, but at the university and other chapters and to PNMs. Being comfortable with public speaking. You're usually the person with the chapter president that's welcoming people into the houses. So you have to just be able to kind of chit chat with people, but also be ready to give a speech.
Mhm.
And I always thought it was funny at the end of each party of going around to each room and be like, hi everyone, like the party's ended for tonight, like you can go get your coats. Of just like being able to go into a room full of people and do that. But then being organized,
Mm.
because it's a lot of moving parts and you got to make sure that they're all moving correctly so it can all turn out well.
Yeah.
But I would definitely suggest anyone, if you're interested in it, definitely apply for it because it's such a great learning experience. You bond so much with your sisters, and it's such a great opportunity to like look at these new member classes and be like, I was a big part in like their sorority story.
Yeah.
And it just feels really special to be part of that.
Well, and that's a really good point because you don't realize probably even when you're looking back how many of those PNMs that you touched or that you are a bigger part of their story because they were looking up to you as they were coming through the doors and going through recruitment. And now they're your sister and they've been, with you these past few years and they probably really look up to you because of you being in that position.
Yes, because I remember like going through, I like they like open the doors and like it's this like beautiful house and everyone's standing there singing. And actually one of my special sibs was the president at the time, or who
Oh,
ended up being one of my special sibs. And I was like looking, I was like, wow, like she's what I want to be in college. Like just seeing her like stand there with such confidence, like welcoming us all in. And
mhm.
then when we were like getting ready for PNMs to come in the house, like this past recruitment, I was like, oh wait, that's me now. And like it was such a special experience.
Yeah. I mean, but what a sweet memory to have. And, I'm sure she would be honored to hear you tell that story too.
Yes.
So looking back, you've had all of these different experiences on all the different sides of recruitment. What is your number one favorite memory?
Oh, trying to think. I think this last bid day we had, our theme was Pi Phi, How Can I Resist Ya? And it was Mamma Mia themed.
Uh-huh.
And
That's a
so
good
we
one.
went to, it was so much fun. And it's like my favorite movie too. So I was like,
Mhm.
this is a perfect final bid day. But we went to our local movie theater to watch it. And there was some like, it was like last minute, they were like, I don't think we can do, like, we actually don't have the movie anymore. So like, can you just watch a random movie? And I was like, no. So it was like it was during like a party, like the theater was calling me, and I was like, I have it on DVD. Like, can we get this done? And he's like, oh my God, yeah, we can play a DVD. So like last minute all worked out, and then we all went into this theater, and it was like the final song when they have like the big dance break at the end, and one of the new members was like, can we go dance? I was like, yes. And the whole chapter went up and we were like in front of the theater and like the little stage area up there, just like singing and dancing. But it was just a best way to end bid day, and to like close out my position.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's a memory that everyone who was involved will not soon forget. I mean, dancing in the movie theater to Mamma Mia would be really fun.
Yes. I think that's what I love about bid days too, is that you can do like anything for the activity, especially now that things are opening back up after COVID. Like
Yes.
you can really tie into the themes. And it's great to have because like you don't want to just sit and talk all day. Because like it's you're meeting people for the first time. It's almost like going on like a blind date of
Mhm.
like it's more fun if you have an activity to do together and make that memory together.
Yes, I agree. I would have to think that recruitment feels 10 times more special now coming off of COVID and a lot of virtual recruitments. Did you have to go virtual at all during your
Yeah.
college time? Were you guys doing it that way?
Yeah, so we were completely virtual
Okay.
for we did when was it? Our fall 2020 was completely virtual. That was like our informal recruitment.
Mhm.
And then our spring 2021 was also completely virtual, that was our primary recruitment time.
Okay.
So that was really, really hard. They ended up not doing ICS that year, which is the like matching system that they do that does like kind of the math side of recruitment.
Mhm.
And so it was considered like continuous open bidding. So we would have Zoom like open houses. We
Mhm.
filmed a tour. People spoke. We still did like breakout rooms. It was a lot of like when normally you'd kind of just be like walking around the house, like making sure everyone's having a good conversation. It was like frantically putting breakout rooms into Zoom.
Uh,
But then we also had to do a virtual bid day. So we had people come to the union in groups of, I think, 4 to pick up their bid cards like that morning. And then we had like a little photo backdrop and they got their like t-shirts and we took pictures in front of that. But then we had to send them all back to their dorms. And then we had a virtual bid day, but we tried to make the best of it. It was kind of cute. Our theme was we wish we could be together, and was like bees themed. And so we did like one of the things we always do on bid day is like a dance party. So we're like, okay, how can we make this virtual? That we did like just dance videos and like screen shared them, and like everyone did it in their rooms because like we couldn't even be like in our common rooms downstairs together. Like we all to be in our own separate bedrooms. But I think we made the most of it. And was it ideal? Like, no way. But I mean, it was a memory, it's an experience. And I think we all kind of like learned a lot about like what our sisterhood means to us through that, and like why it's important for all of us to be able to get together, and like why we're going through all this to celebrate new members coming in. So I feel like it kind of made it a little bit special too, because like a lot of thought and work had to go into it.
Yeah, you're right. You had to prepare even more probably so than for in-person things, and you had to be ready for technological issues or whatever, Zoom was going to bring your way that day. But, a lot of conversations I've been having with people, I've been hearing that is why recruitment is all the stronger now, is because everyone made the best of what went on during COVID and doing the virtual recruitments, but everyone is really wanting to be back in person and have that camaraderie and that place to belong. And so I think that's what makes Greek life so special and why recruitment is still thriving so well.
Yeah. And I think it gave Greek life as a whole an opportunity to kind of like step back and look at like why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because for so many years we're like, okay, yeah, like this is tradition. Like we're just gonna do this. And while a lot of those it was like great to maintain, some of it is like, well, why would we do that? Does this make sense for us to do? Like I think one of the things that always stood out to me is that we always had like a set menu for our progressive dinner. And like it was always this like cocktail foods thing, and we always it was cocktail weenies and barbecue sauce was one of the things. And everyone was like, oh my god, it's like tradition. But I was like, no, like no one wants to come over and eat this. So like we like revamped our menus, like we revamped like the activities we did on different nights. It kind of gave us an opportunity to be like, okay, like it was good, we can make it better.
Yeah, it's okay to make a little bit of change to how things were done. It doesn't always have to be, this is how we've always done it. It's how we're always going to do it.
Yes.
Oh, well, Katie, you have provided some really good insight, I think, for everyone about recruitment. I understand your experience is with Milliken, and so it may not be the same on every campus, but a lot of the concepts that you shared are applicable. And so I think it's really been insightful for folks to listen to. As we close out, do you have any final words of advice for anybody participating in recruitment this year?
Yeah, I think just have fun, be yourself, and like cherish this time together. Like it can be so easy to think like, oh, I have to be at parties all day, or like, oh, I have to run home from class and like get dressed and then run over to all these different things. But just cherish this time. These are some of the best memories in college, and you only get your college experience for a limited amount of time. So just like take a moment during recruitment and just like look around you and be like, okay, like this is special. Like I'm a part of something special right now. And just really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice. Thank you.